Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm in my greenhouse again and I just wanted to say something real quick about the channel, bit of housekeeping. So the point is that I realized that I won't have time to do do like a or two book reviews a week, but then I do have I guess I do feel a need to communicate, and there are things that I want to put out there. So I was looking for a different format to do that, and I have to say it does take a bit of courage, because those videos will not be scripted, so my English is not going to be that stellar, maybe, because can't be looking at notes or at a teleprompter. So nevertheless, I would like to try that, and I'm not sure what the type of segment will be called yet. Something between greenhouse chat and wisdom nuggets, I guess. And basically the purpose is that I do come across quotes, for instance, or I do also watch obviously other YouTubers, and I do come across statements or insights that I find worthwhile sharing, and granted that we are all on different sort of points in our own development, and I just trust that when I find a wisdom nugget, to me that is a wisdom nugget to me, when I share it, I trust that it might just help some of you, or one of you even, and then that's, to me, that's worthwhile doing. And I'm gonna start with an example. So yesterday I came across a short video by Lucille. He is I guess, somewhat of a guru in the non-duality movement. And I think I mentioned in one of my videos past that I do have, like, I don't tend to watch a lot of non-duality movement videos, because they just tended to put me off more or trigger me more than they helped me personally, so I stopped watching them. And I'm gonna have to reflect on why that is at some point. But anyway, so I did come across that one short video, which obviously I'm gonna link in the description box, and it just completely spoke to what I'm experiencing at the moment, which is for months now, experienced just a very sort of basic loss of interest in a lot of things. So for instance, I would stop listening to music, or I would stop making music altogether, or I would feel even more of a need to be alone and not to meet people, and that includes relatives and best friends. So in a way that seemed disturbing to me. I was sort of going back and forth in my mind between, what's happening, am I just getting depressed again, or what's going on, why do I feel that way? And at the same time I felt everything's good and I really just don't need anything anymore, or not that anymore. I don't feel the desire for music or exchanging, socially and all that kind of stuff. So I would go back and forth between feeling, well, everything's fine, and I feel completely peaceful the way I am, and there's nothing to change, and to feeling somewhat worried, you know, if that's normal. So I do come across that video of Francis Lucille last night talking to one of his, I guess, followers, and they precisely talked about that experience, and I found that really helpful, so I wanted to mention that to you. And what they said was basically, or what they concluded, is that when you, on your way to, I guess, develop a higher consciousness, and I don't mean that to sound, I don't want that to be misunderstood as, you know, being taxing or anything like that. I mean, if I say higher consciousness, I just mean, or expanded consciousness is probably a better term. So if you're on the way of expanding your consciousness, there does apparently come a time where there seems to be just a complete collapse of interest in anything phenomenal. So anything that you pick up with your senses, your physical senses, you know, seeing, hearing, feeling, touching, and all that. And there seems to be a redirection of desire towards, I guess, the truth, you know, or towards that expanded consciousness. So things that you used to be interested in just lose their appeal. And Lucille said that's completely normal and okay, and that's just what happens along the way, and that also might be temporary. So he mentioned how he quit going to nightclubs or playing tennis, you know, or even also seeing friends. But then some of these, I mean, for instance, he picked tennis back up later in life. So even if that gets lost temporarily, you know, it might come back at a later point. So that was kind of like comforting to me, I guess, because I would hate to think that I just lost music, you know, altogether, because I actually do love music and I do love making music. So now that I understand that it's a phase and that it's a normal phase, and it might change again and come back, I'm somewhat relaxed, you know, I'm somewhat comforted again. And I guess that was the point, is that little video, you know, it was like a 5-minute video or something, that little exchange between those two individuals helped me to sort of reorient myself in all of this, because I feel that another thing that happens, and I think that's something that's happening on a global scale right now, is that, and that's sort of like really obvious and apparent, is that a lot of the points of orientation we used to have, you know, including I guess, well, a lot of institutions, you know, that used to work for us, seem to be crumbling and seem to be no longer working, and so you end up being in this kind of situation of a vacuum, you know. I mean, you can look at that phenomenon on all types of scales, you know, geopolitical, right down to personal, you know, which is probably exasperating the feeling of being in a sort of vacuum, or not being able to orient yourself that much anymore. And I think that needs to be acknowledged, and I think that might be just part of, so as much as it might be part of your personal development to be in that sort of state of a vacuum at some point, it might also have partially be sort of rooted in societal degeneration. And so there is this sort of disillusionment at the minute, you know, with a lot of authority figures and processes and institutions that used to sort of give us comfort, and that, as I said, that might be exacerbating the whole situation. But anyway, so another thing that Lucille mentioned in that video is that apparently this seems to be a normal sort of phase in one's development of consciousness or of expanded consciousness. And he described, if you looked at it as a journey, you know, you start out in the jungle and then you actually go through a period where you seem to be walking through the desert, and that's exactly what sort of spoke to me in that moment. I felt that, yeah, that pretty much does feel like walking through a desert, you know. But he said at a certain point after walking through the desert, you will reach the ocean, you know, and you will witness a beautiful sunrise. And I found that a really nice just mental picture to have, and it's kind of comforting to think that there will be this point where you have the feeling of arriving, or maybe it's a point where that vacuous feeling won't matter to you that much anymore. And he then went on to say that there are different types of desires, because in a way it feels like a loss of any kind of desire, you know. And he said that there are different types of desires, or that desire is rooted in a lot of different things. One of them being ignorance, another being needs, and the third being happiness. And he said that it's okay to still have desire, or to still feel desire that are based on needs, you know, on physical needs, because we do have a body and we have to, for instance, eat, you know, and just basically have shelter and all that kind of basic stuff. And that it's totally fine to have desires that are rooted in just a genuine feeling of happiness, you know. It's like, if you feel like, oh, it would be great to just go watch a movie right now, just because you do that out of a sort of just tranquil and joyful sense of happiness, you know, that's totally fine, I think. And the only problem, he said, that there is when desire originates in ignorance, because that ignorance originates in the belief to be a separate human being, separate from everyone else. And that's sort of like the basic problem, it seems, is that when we, or as long as we feel that we are separate human beings, or I mean just disconnected from everything, there's no way to reach expanded consciousness, obviously. So right, so I guess that's what I wanted to share today. I'm just gonna try this new format going forward. I hope you like it, and yeah, wishing you a good Easter period if you do celebrate it. Bye.